Hello and welcome to the presentation about the study that investigated the influence of expected goals parameter on the professional football player's valuation. We will start with the introduction to the problem we tackled and the inspiration to choose football as our main topic. Sport has always fascinated people in every corner of the world. It has brought entertainment, gathered crowds, and created bonds between fans and clubs. This huge attractiveness of the sports industry has put players into the spotlight and injected millions of dollars into the industry. Clubs became richer and could afford spendings that were never possible before. At the same time, they sought to find a competitive advantage to win every possible game, and the easiest path to accomplish that was to buy new players. This ideology led to the creation of a financial bubble where the valuation of a football player became higher and higher. As of the year 2019, the overall value of transfers between clubs reached $7.35 billion. A new question emerged. Are these prices really a reflection of the skills presented by players? At the same time, sports statistics were gaining momentum, transforming football into a quantifiable and measurable discipline. With every pass and distance measured to the nearest decimal place, statistics became an integral part of assessing the performance of players. However, the basic values such as goals, assists, and tackles merely described the game and did not provide any further or new insight. For this reason, researchers started to implement more advanced measures that were aimed at reflecting the real skills of the players within the context during the game. One of these is the measure called expected value.
In general terms, expected goals, or XG, is the number of goals a player or team should have scored when taking into account several factors, such as the number and type of chances they had in a match. In other words, XG is the probability that a shot will result in a goal, based on the characteristics of that shot and the events leading up to it. This type of statistical measure has many purposes, and it is often used to analyze situations such as predicting the score of a match, assessing a team's or player's performance, scouting potential players, and so on. The use of expected goals in modern-day football is becoming more and more popular, since it allows teams to have a better understanding of their players' performance using a simple statistic. There are several ways in which to measure and define the score of expected goals, which is commonly expressed as a percentage, and it mostly depends on the company and their approach. Nevertheless, an important aspect of XG is the use of historical data to predict the likelihood of a specific shot being scored. With the use of this type of information, predictions with a higher level of accuracy can be drawn, based on similar plays that took place in the past. Some common measures that are taken into account for calculating XG are location of the shot, body part, type of pass, type of attack, position of the defense, etc. In the particular case of Opta, a firm that works with XG, when creating the XG model, they managed to analyze more than 300,000 shots, which illustrates the massive amounts of data that are necessary in order to calculate a statistic such as expected goals. The use of the expected goals statistic can bring teams and players many benefits. As mentioned before, which is why it is being so commonly used. Some of its main applications are determining whether a particular team or player are underperforming or overperforming based on the XG value calculated for them, assessing the process over the results of a match by rating the quality of chances instead of the actual outcome, and even scouting future players if teams notice that they are consistently scoring more goals than the quantity of chances they get. All of this thanks to XG.
The importance and depth of information that expected value provides us led to the ultimate formulation of the problem. By combining the recent controversies about big transfer fees with the new statistical tool in the form of expected value, the formal question was asked: does expected value influences the valuation of professional football players? Nevertheless, the underlying premise was that if the answer is yes, then it would mean that huge transfer fees paid by clubs are based on the skills players possess. Having defined the data and the overall purpose, the study moved forward to look deeper into the variables, their distribution, and descriptive statistics. First of all, the data was gathered from publicly available and reliable sources. Secondly, we prepared our samples by removing missing values and restricting the data to only those players who will make the ultimate model more interpretable. These limitations include, for example, league, position, or even age. Then we went to the descriptive statistics. When it comes to the market valuation, we faced the problem of right skewness, which was partly minimized by the removal of outliers. However, most important fact was that we managed to gather 156 samples, which helped us assume normality. However, a different situation was with the expected value, as histogram showed the data had approximately normal distribution. Furthermore, we divided the database into two baskets, one with positive score and the second with negative scores. Although the scale and range of the values were not high, dividing data was the first preparation for the inferential statistics part.
The most important part of our study was the independent t-test, which compares the means between two unrelated groups on the same continuous dependent variable. Before we ran the test, however, we ensured that all statistical assumptions were satisfied. Namely, we ensured that first, our sample is the random sample that is representative of the population. 2. No subject in either group can influence subjects in the other group, thus confirming the assumptions regarding independence. 3. Furthermore, we can assume the normality of data through a histogram in quartile range ratio to standard deviation, large sample size, which is above 30 samples, and the constructions of a normal probability plot. Now, while running the independent t-test, we were also provided with a test for equality of variances, which revealed that there was no homogeneity of variance. The study found that the valuation of football players with positive score of expected value has been higher than those with a negative score. Now, to back it up, we calculated a 90% confidence interval that showed the possible range of the true difference of means. Moreover, since our p-value is smaller than alpha, we reject the null hypothesis and conclude that the means of two measured groups is not the same. Based on this, we accept the alternative hypothesis and our previous assumption that expected value in fact influences the market valuation of football players. Now, although our study has shed new light on expected value and its importance for the sports industry, we see a new potential for further research. Firstly, we limited our study to the 5 best football leagues and only forward players. However, I would like to extend the dataset to all players' positions and all leagues, thus providing more samples and obtaining more insightful results. Secondly, the future work should focus on the linear regression technique in order to measure the impact of many factors that could possibly influence valuation. Now, moreover, it is possible and valuable to apply machine learning techniques, namely neural networks. It is because of the problem of players' valuation is very complex, and a neural network would enable us to connect many factors into one statistical model. Now, furthermore, the model can be extended to include more variables that would better describe the player's value. We limited the study to the expected value, but at the same time found many more statistics that can also be included, such as instat index.
On behalf of Bartosz, Tomas, Alejandro, and Majd, we thank you for your attention and we hope that you have enjoyed our presentation.